Welcome to the Final Frontiers radio show, where we spotlight inspiring missionary endeavors around the globe. Stay tuned to hear how you can personally get involved, helping the Lord's frontline soldiers effectively advance the gospel where it has never been preached before. In this episode, we will be speaking with a missionary who has served in the South American country of Argentina for over 20 years. We have a series of stories from the nation of Ethiopia, and we have an informative discussion about the full-color Missions magazine that is available for you, our listeners, through Final Frontiers. Hello, this is Joshua Martin. Here on the phone today, I have Brother Brian George. He's speaking to us all the way from Argentina. He's on a phone right now up in the North Territory. He has 5 children. They've been in Argentina for over 20 years. At the age of 9, his parents went to Argentina. Actually, your wife, she was a missionary also in Spain, wasn't she? Her family?
Yes.
So both of you had missionary experience before giving your lives to work on the field in Argentina. Can you talk about that beginning experience of being on the field as a young kid?
I grew up in Argentina as a child, and I was 9 years old when I arrived in Argentina with my parents. And I still remember learning the Spanish language just by going out on the sidewalk and playing with the neighborhood kids. We played in the sand, and we played marbles, and we played different games, and then eventually a little bit of soccer. And I learned the Spanish language just by asking questions, and I picked it up pretty quick. And praise the Lord, that was a tremendous tool. Eventually, I helped my dad start a church, and we invited all the neighborhood kids to come to the church, and we started teaching them the songs, and we saw lots of them saved. It's amazing, all the neighborhood kids we saw saved. So praise the Lord. For me, it's exciting to be able to grow up on the mission field and how God was able to mold me and make me as an MK. And it was exciting to help my dad and start a church. And then eventually my dad started another church and then another church. And my dad was really faithful, a tremendous influence upon my life as far as somebody that loved the Lord and wanted to do something for God and wanted God to use him to reach people. And so my dad was a tremendous influence upon my life, and also some of the other missionaries and pastors there were a great influence upon my life. And eventually, as a teenager, God was dealing in my heart about surrendering to full-time Christian service, and eventually I surrendered to serve the Lord full-time in a tent revival that my dad was having. And I surrendered to God, that just God used me, however God wanted to use me. And I was very shy and timid and so on back when I was a teenager, but I was determined that God could use others and God can use me also. So I just went forward by faith, and eventually God led me to go to Howell Anderson College. I finished up my studies there as far as graduating from there, and I met my wife Liesl there at the college, and we got married after I graduated, and eventually after 3 years of raising support, we arrived in Argentina.
That's exciting to hear that you were involved with the music ministry, you were involved in teaching. I had read one of your prayer letters and also just kind of your testimony, and just hearing about how you were involved in Argentina. And then you go off to college, and then God calls you to come back, because a lot of times we hear where if they go off to college and they leave the field, they never return. And it's exciting to see you and your wife working on the mission field again. My sister has been in Peru for so many years, and my brother-in-law and I, we take trips into the jungle after unreached tribes. And so my heart is for missionaries everywhere. I love them. And here at Final Frontiers, we love them.
Now we're working here together as a team with some other missionaries.
Okay.
We're working with Brother Simeon Hudson and Pastor Larry Owen, 3 missionary families working together. And our main work here is starting different churches in different places. We work mainly in the northern part of Argentina.
Okay.
And we have a Bible college, and I work in the Bible college and working a lot there as far as teaching and working with the nationals that come through and get training.
We deal a lot with national preachers, and that is something that is in your heart. I was reading even your last prayer letter. You made a statement, training and working with national preachers. You said, they are our only hope to reach Argentina. And so you have a heart like ours. Can you tell me what you're doing with the national preachers there?
First of all, we have a Bible college, and that's where we start work with all the preacher boys and the students. We start working with them at the Bible college, and usually we average about 30 students, and we're praying that God will enable us to have eventually 120 students. That's my goal, and we're going towards that. We're working really hard trying to recruit new students. But I basically work with the college students. We eat meals with them, we talk to them, we do a lot together with them, and then we train them and teach them, and we teach them a lot of Bible, emphasize that just a lot of Bible. We want them to get the Bible doctrines and Bible training down really good. And then I teach some of the practical classes of how to preach and how to do different things. And really, God has given us a great harvest of preacher boys. I think we have between 30 and 40 preacher boys that have graduated from our Bible college.
Wow.
And we have started 17 new churches so far with all these different ones that have gone out. And God has given us a goal to start 100 churches, and that's what we're going forward towards, to start 100 churches, and we have 17 so far, and we're going forward. We've been averaging starting one new church a year, and some years we start up to 3 new churches a year, but we're hoping to average eventually 4 or 5 or 6 new churches a year. That's what we're hoping to average. And we have a big national conference in November, and that's one of the biggest meetings we have. It's a national conference for Argentina, and we have pastors come in from surrounding countries also to that big meeting. We promote the cause of starting new churches. We promote the cause of pastors. We honor pastors. We really do a lot for the national pastors to come. We do a lot for them and help them out. We give them love offerings and food and literature and Bibles. As they go out to start new works, we go with them. We help with evangelistic campaigns. And we help them with literature and tracts and different things. And we try to help them as much as possible, the national pastors, to go out in tremendous ways as much as we can. We realize that in order to reach Argentina for Christ and surrounding countries, we need to work with the national pastors and not just send them out, but we need to go with them and work with them and help them and try to get them to come into our national conference and encourage them there. Because it's really easy for them to get discouraged and get down. And a lot of them live in a very humble situation. And we tried our best to be by the side, encourage them as much as possible. We really need to go forward a lot more in the area of national pastors and training them. We need more students at our Bible college. I'm working on that right now. Our Bible college opens its doors the 27th of March, and we go all the way to the end of November. And so we're really excited about our Bible college and training of nationals and going forward in that area. And there's a lot of areas in Argentina that nobody has gone to preach the gospel, mainly up in the mountains.
Sure.
So you can maybe say some indigenous tribes and people, and we really like to go up in the mountains a lot more and reach those people with the gospel. We already have gone some, and we like to go all the more into those areas and reach them. They're kind of high altitude. It's probably some places up to 10,000 feet in altitude,
right,
and so on. But there's some different villages, different places where people meet, and we like to go eventually and start different works amongst those people also. We have a lot of good contacts already. We just need to kind of go forward and start working with those people.
That sounds really exciting. That's right up my alley there. Would love to help with that.
Yeah, well, it sounds great. In Jujuy, Argentina, and in Salta, Argentina, those are 2 areas where up in the mountains there's a lot of different villages, people we can work in. And I already have preacher boys that are going up in there, and I can get in contact with them, and they can take us up in there and see what they're doing and see what other areas they haven't even reached yet.
Praise the Lord. Yeah, that's very intriguing to me.
But it's a really exciting ministry here. The main church, Bethel Baptist Church, we average about 350 in attendance, and God's blessing in a tremendous way. We keep getting new families in, we train them, and then they go out and start churches. We just keep pushing soul winning, we keep pushing and reaching people, and God's really blessing.
It's exciting to hear all of that. That's amazing. You know, you're having a goal to start 100 churches. Praise the Lord for that. I believe it'll happen. You train those guys and they go out. It's beautiful to see them work. And Final Frontiers supports so many national preachers around the world in different cultures. It's different everywhere. And we've seen in the past that it's been harder sometimes in South America. And so to hear what God's using you to do, that is awesome. I heard that there was 28 some pastors just recently in November, your last conference. That would have been neat to see. And you guys were such a blessing to them, it sounded like.
Yeah, that was our record, I think, for national pastors that came through, and we're hoping to hit way over 30 next year. That's where our goal is. And every year we try to do more to help them out as far as different needs that they have. A lot of pastors can't come because of the expense of the bus ticket and so on. So we would have a lot more just because of that, but we're hoping eventually in the future to help them in that area so they can come.
Thanks for talking to us today about this and telling us about your ministry. We have the Timothy Project, which helps young preachers that are training to be church planters, and I know that's something we might be able to use that to be able to help you. There might be some of your national preachers that we could support. That would be wonderful. I know Daniel's been in contact with you, and he'll continue to be. Weren't you interested in a power pack, talking to him about a power pack and using that like out in the mountains?
Yeah, this past year we tried to raise funds to be able to purchase one of the power packs, but it didn't work out. We weren't able to raise the funds. And I was promoting that as I visited different churches in the USA. And a lot of pastors showed a lot of interest, but it didn't really work out. But the power pack that Final Frontiers has is a tremendous tool. I mean, we have different groups in our church that go out on a regular basis, and they go out to street corners, soccer fields, and they go out to anywhere they can. They show a burning hell film or some other powerful film, and then they preach, and they see a lot of people saved. We started a lot of churches just by doing that. And a lot of times we don't have much as far as of sound of anything, just very little, if any. And we're hoping eventually to upgrade everything and maybe get some power packs and use those in our ministry. That would be a tremendous help. And also the Timothy Project, and also you're supporting your national pastors. Yeah, eventually maybe we can work something out. But Pastor Owen keeps telling me that Brother Daniel Nelms or Brother John Nelms, you're very welcome to come down here to visit us, or Brother Martin, you're welcome to come down here and visit us, and we can try to see what we can do to work together if possible, and see what we can get something set up.
Okay.
Or do some projects here if possible. But you're very welcome to come to Argentina if it'll work out.
Yes, we would like to do that, and so we'll keep in touch about that. It's a blessing to hear what's going on there. Thank you, brother, for telling us about all this today.
Well, God bless you, and keep on doing this good work in the ministry.
Your inquiries and comments are important to us. If you have any questions or perhaps subject matter you would like to have addressed on this show, please visit us at finalfrontiers.world.
So hey Josh, you just went to 3 countries for us. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
3 countries in Africa, which is an extremely needy place. The first place I went to, I flew into Kenya and then went up. Actually had to come into Nairobi, and then I flew up into Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. And this is a place where it's like, some say 45%, some say 50% Muslim. Wow. So you have mosques everywhere. And the places that we went when we were going south, sometimes it was in some small city you'd be driving past, and within like every mile you'd have another mosque. I can remember going through one city and I would see like 4 mosques. Some of them were small, and you see the crescent moon and the star and everything. You see it just one after another, and people constantly walking by, and you see the women with veils. I saw one woman that was completely covered. I mean, you could not even, I don't even know how she could see out of it. And you do see that over there, even in Ethiopia, as probably the poorest place that I felt that I saw when I was in Africa. Ethiopia, when you get outside of Addis Ababa, you really start to see the poverty. When I was first picked up at the airport, I got to visit missionary Ray Hoover and his wife, Wanda. They're great people. They've had a lot of experience, and they've been missionaries on another foreign field for, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 years, and then they came here to Ethiopia. He's got a lot of neat things going. He has not given up. I mean, there's been many people that he's discipled and trained, and some people give up on him. He does not give up on them. And when I first got there, one of the things he told me was, he said, it may look like it's a rich city, Addis Ababa, the capital, but he said, just behind the buildings and just around the corners, you see the poverty, and he did. I visited one very small little church, just a small house, and the pastor was there. They had a proclaimer out, and they had listened all the way from like Matthew to Hebrews by that time, I think, wow. And it was in their native language, so it was really special to them.
Was that near the capital, or
that was right near the capital? That was just like within a couple of miles, just like right inside that territory right there. But we got in that little house, and it's just like a shack, you know, just like tin on the sides and everything, and we all crammed in there, and everybody always drinks coffee, so you got these little tiny little cups of coffee, and they do it really special. And there's these people there just listening to the message, and we're just all in this tight little dark spot. It's really hard to get a camera in there and get any kind of light, but you can see the people love the Lord, and they wanted to be there, and it was beautiful, but there was a lot of poverty there. So some of those pastors are clear out 6 hours away. And one of them we didn't even get to visit. He was out on a mountainside that was pointed out to me. His daughter was kidnapped by Muslims and integrated into the tribe, and there was nothing that he could do. The elder of the tribe said, no, she's part of us now, and he lost his daughter. and he still ministered in that area, and then they burned his church down. So, you've got persecution there.
Right.
Among those churches, definitely.
Being with them, meeting these men, speaking with them, getting to know them, do you think these are men that we can support?
Definitely. He said he had 5, 6 men that are planning churches, and they're zealous about it. I met several guys that we went on one trip one time where we were out in the countryside near Addis Ababa, still out there a ways. And we walked for probably 5 miles out across the countryside, just barren farmland. And these guys are handing out tracts and witnessing the entire way. And these areas, they're not as civilized as the capital or anything. Like, you've got kids out there. You always see the little girls carrying water. They've got little yellow buckets and containers and everything. And there's one place where they're getting their water, and it's like green scum all over it. And you can see them drawing water from that spot. And it's a tiny little area, like maybe 1 city block. And it's this little forest. And they say they see lights in there at night. There's some demonic presence that they have to sacrifice a goat or a chicken to, or this snake creature will come out and kill their children or kill their livestock. But they're allowed to go in and get water at certain times.
Right.
And, they didn't like pictures being taken there very much.
I can imagine.
But you've got kids living in poverty there, gathering water from the scum pond, and you see the girls carrying the firewood and the buckets everywhere. But these pastors were witnessing to all these people. They have this person way out there, 5 miles out, that accepted Christ, and they're traveling out to try to find him again, and they're witnessing to everybody. So their hope is to start a church in that place.
Sure. Wow, that's amazing.
It's neat to see them in action.
Well, tell me about these children. Do you think they could benefit from our Touch of Life or Daily Bread program?
Definitely. There's a place, it's called Hosanna, and it's interesting because it's like Jewish Ethiopian people, and they don't even intermarry hardly. And we come to this village, and I didn't know actually where we were headed. We had been up in a top area, and we come into this territory. It's really beautiful after a big rainstorm, and there was people up there that said, we like what we're hearing. They were hearing the gospel, and the preachers were preaching, and we just had them all in a little road area, like a dirt road. And then one of them turned to me, because I couldn't speak their language, but they did speak some English. And they said, we like what we're hearing. We want a church here. We want a church here.
Wow, that's amazing.
And you get down into the valley, and you find this place. This is where it gets to the children, is we come into this village, and from a distance you can see they're all waiting for us. And they have these signs that say, welcome. And the kids that are holding them, especially this little girl, I will never forget this one little girl. And she's standing there holding a sign that says welcome in English and welcome in their language. And she's got flies just all over her eyes, her nose, her mouth. They'll lay eggs in their eyes, and then later on they'll have eye problems, they'll go blind. You see a lot of adults, especially women, where they'll have one eye that's a lazy eye, that's given up and it just goes off to the side.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with a lot of these kids. But there's kids there with snotty noses and sicknesses and naked and just in this village, and they're waiting for us. And they were displaced by the government not so long ago, and they said, we can't get water, we can't get good water, and we don't have a well. The farmland is not the same, and we're having trouble growing our crops.
Did they say why they were displaced?
The government took their land. There's certain lands that is being used for something else, and I didn't hear the story on that.
They just said, you got to move.
Yeah, they made a move.
How many people are we talking about here? 200?
No, this was more like probably a village of, say, 100 people, something like that. They were so happy to have us there. And the gospel was preached in that place, and there was a group of, 7 or 8 of them that said, I want to accept Christ. I believe the message. Then they walked us across their territory singing. But you have kids there that I have seen, getting a cup and pulling up water out of a mud puddle after the rain and filling that.
Did they have any infrastructure, any public utilities such as water from water main,
No.
electricity? Anything.
There's no electricity there, and all the huts are grass tops and mud sides. There's a religion that came in and built a well and tried to build some kind of school for some group further away, but it's not for these people.
How far away is this from the capital, would you say, from where Ray Hoover is based out of?
I would say 6 hours.
6 hours.
6 hours south. And that's just one preacher that's trying to start a church there.
Sure. Do they have one of the audio Bibles in this village?
Not in this village.
We actually were able to provide Missionary Ray Hoover with, I think, 5 proclaimers and one of our power packs. So it sounds like he needs some more audio Bibles. At least for that village, they definitely need to get one in there. But that sounds like a perfect opportunity to start Touch of Life and, maybe even start out with our Daily Bread program.
Yes.
We've got Daily Bread, which provides food for widows and orphans. So, as you know, a Touch a Life is basically pairs one sponsor with one child. Very difficult to do when you're trying to feed 20, 40, 50 kids at one time, but funding that comes in for Daily Bread allows us to spend those funds on specific areas like this while we look for sponsors for the children. So that sounds like a good opportunity.
There's a lot of need there. And that place brought me to tears many times. More than probably anywhere else in Africa were the things that I saw in Ethiopia. It really touched my heart. So a lot of needy children.
Yeah. There's a need for the Lord, need for water and food, and probably many other things.
Statistics tell us that more than 72,000 children die every day because of hunger-related causes. For those who cannot fully sponsor a child, any amount, no matter how small, is welcome to the ministry we call Daily Bread. It works the local churches to provide food in bulk to needy children who do not yet have a sponsor. For more information, visit finalfrontiers.world.
Social work is not missions, but a wise missionary will use these to give greater exposure to the gospel, allowing the lost to see our good works and glorify our Father. Some fear that giving away Band-Aids and porridge will eventually snuff out the preaching of the gospel. They are right in many cases, but they don't have to be. Just because some people put the cart before the horse doesn't mean everyone has to or will. Jesus frequently healed and fed the needy and even raised Lazarus from the dead. Tabitha's testimony was that she clothed the widows. George Mueller cared for over 10,000 orphans in his lifetime. And William Carey started the first primary and girls' school in India, a Bible college, India's first degree-offering university, and he also started the first Bengali newspaper and the India Horticultural Society. He used every social opportunity possible in a meaningful way to spread the gospel throughout India. And in spite of all his massive social programs, he is still revered in India as a missionary. Missionaries see social work as a means of obeying Christ's command to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and care for the widows and orphans. Such programs are not just social, but scriptural. Today, some of the best-known charities no longer preach the gospel. They failed in their calling because they chose to. We too can choose to fail or to remain faithful to our primary calling. Demas chose to forsake Paul, but of his entire entourage of more than 70 known disciples, only Demas made that decision. All the others remained faithful. And Paul never avoided ministry in cities because Demas chose their enticement over ministry hardships. Feeding a hungry family the bread they need to live can open their hearts to the acceptance of the bread of life. Giving a cup of water in Jesus' name will not only earn you a heavenly reward, but will also give the recipient a chance to hear how they can never thirst again. I'm John Nelms. To learn more about missions, order a copy of my book, The Great Omission, on our website at finalfrontiers.world.
Would you like for world missions to be fresh and exciting in your home? Here at Final Frontiers, we work hard to produce a full-color magazine report with inspiring stories, important global facts, and missions opportunities and updates every quarter throughout the year. You can sign up for your copy at finalfrontiers.world.
Hi, I'm Daniel Nelms.
And I'm John Nelms.
Hey, Dad, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about our magazine?
Well, we call it the Progress Report, and it's funny to me because we've been doing it for 30 years, and when people refer to it, they always refer to it as that magazine you do. It actually has a name, Progress Report, and the reason I named it that at the beginning was I wanted to be able to show that there was progress being made in the philosophy of missions that we have.
Yeah, well, what kind of content and things can they expect to see in this?
Well, most missionaries theoretically send out a quarterly letter to their supporting churches. And that's because they're talking about their individual ministry. But our ministry is much larger than the typical. You know, we're operating in, I think, 87 countries now. And so we have a lot to talk about. And so what we do is during the quarter, we pick and choose stories that are coming in or that are relevant. And we tell our readers about that. And we also like to be able to emphasize the different aspects of our ministry, like Smugglers, Touch a Life, Daily Bread, the expeditions, the the things you do with the technology, the audio Bibles and so forth. And to do that, it takes a lot of pages. We can never cover every topic, every issue.
Sure. And, there's so many issues that we've done over the years, and they're all available on our website. We've got every issue from 1997 up to 2017 and soon 2018. So there's just so much information. How many times do you think people have wrote in, called in, asking a question that's already been answered?
Yeah, it's a blessing when they have questions, but quite frankly, I don't know that we ever get a question that hasn't already been answered in one of the issues. Of course, everybody can't go back and read 20 years worth, and truthfully, we've done it for 30 years. I don't know what happened to the others. I guess somehow moving, they got misplaced. And in the old days, they were the size of like a church bulletin done in black and white, and sometimes the pictures were so blurry that you couldn't even make out what it was. I even had a friend ask me once if we did that on purpose to get sympathy so people would give us more money. I told him, no, it's an embarrassment to me. We go to all the trouble to do the work, and then you can't even see the picture. But I think, 10 years ago or so, we started doing full color magazines. And really, when we switched from black and white to full color because of the printer we use, our cost went up $50 per issue.
Total, not $50 per magazine. Just
per
$50
quarter.
Total. So we switched companies, and they do an excellent job.
They mail it out for us, too.
Yeah, we used to have to do that. It was a lot of work. So after all this time, and every issue takes so much time and effort to produce, why do you still do it?
Well, I've always felt like the progress report is our life's blood. It keeps people in touch with our ministry. They know what's going on by that. They can read about prayer requests. They find out about the persecution overseas. It's just our way of being able to communicate. There's not that many missions magazines out there on the market, and so I wanted to be able to provide something where there was a deficit. And I don't want to toot our own horn, but I've had many pastors tell me that it's the best missions periodical they get. Several have told me over the years that they get theirs through a P.O. box, and that when they go to the post office to get their mail, they sit in their car and read the entire magazine before they ever go back to their church. So a lot of people really enjoy reading the stories and learning about what we're doing, and we just do our best to try to keep it as interesting and uplifting and motivating as we can.
If any of you all are listening and you do read the progress report, go to our website, leave a comment, write a note, email us, call us, post something on Facebook. Let us know, give us some feedback, because it's always nice to know when people are actually reading this content.
Now, of course, we have the internet, and I think a high percentage of the people on our mailing list get their magazine through the internet now.
Sure.
Some are dinosaurs like me, and they want to hold in their hand what they're reading. But whether you want it through the internet or whether you want it a paper copy mailed to you, we can do either way. What people need to do if they're not getting it is to go to our website, finalfrontiers.world, and register for it. It's free, and we'd be more than happy to send it out to you if you'll pray for us.
You've been listening to the Final Frontiers radio show, funded by sponsors like you. Thank you so much for joining us. Through the funding of national and native preachers, we endeavor to effectively advance the gospel where it has never been preached before. If you want more information, visit www.finalfrontiers.world. That's finalfrontiers.world.